edit. So that should be recording now anyway. Ugh. Right. All good?
All good.
You ready?
Do you remember how to pronounce my name?
But like it's got H at the end.
Yeah.
Well, what's been the previous one? What's your pronunciation before?
I didn't know. I asked. I was like, how do you pronounce it?
What's the worst pronunciation of your name? I mean, it's not a complex name, right?
No, but people will just say like Lukic or like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that originally.
Lukic.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
Oh.
There's people jumping in already. Welcome aboard, guys. Back to the Be Strong podcast with me, Kostoru, obviously my co-host over here,
Tom Walker.
and for the first time, we have a guest on. These two roses have acquired a thorn in Susie Lukic, probably one of the best grapplers I've had the privilege to share the mat with. We've got lots of questions from you guys, obviously for Susie. But first, Susie, welcome aboard. Thanks for jumping on.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be the first invited co-host. I'm excited, but I'm also very nervous about some of these questions.
Yeah, we've got some good ones for you.
I feel like after the last podcast, I've now invalidated any options I may have to run for political office.
Yeah, I think that we basically sunk like any political aspirations that we had in one glorious podcast, and I think we're probably going to go the same way.
Yeah.
So just right off the bat, if anyone notices that the audio quality when I post this on Apple is not as good as normal, it's because I forgot my mic again. But you're just going to have to deal with it. The last one, I forgot my mic, and it came out okay. So before we grill Susie with all the questions and things that you guys have sent in, obviously some about jiu-jitsu, some are absolutely disgraceful. You guys actually posed a question for all of us to tackle. We had, and I figured it would be a good one to break down because we've got now 3 different perspectives on it, of no-gi jiu-jitsu, whether wrestling or judo would be your preferred method in terms of trying to take someone down. So I'm going to immediately hand over to you guys to get your thoughts on it. If you had to pick what would be more effective, Susie, what would your thoughts be? Like judo or wrestling? What do you kind of gravitate towards? What's your thoughts on the whole debate?
I think that I gravitate more towards wrestling, and I think for jiu-jitsu athletes who are never going to get to be like an amazing wrestler or amazing judoka, I think that you're probably better off learning wrestling to get you by in jiu-jitsu competitions. But at the minute, people want to see the big throws, so I think like you've got to add a big hip toss in there.
Yeah, I think there's something about the high amplitude throws that bring in the crowds. Like it's exciting to see. And obviously, Tom's perspective on it, coming from a judo background, what is your opinion of like transitioning traditional judo throws using the gi?
Yeah.
How do you think they translate to no gi?
I don't think a lot of them do, and I think, her controversial opinion, I think there are certain throws in judo that are really effective in jiu-jitsu. So the things that work really well for me and I hit on quite good people are foot sweeps. But also the problem with the foot sweep is I find that when you have it, you don't have a very good connection to your opponent. So once you foot sweep, then they need to get to the floor to establish a grip. I think there are quite a few throws in gi that are effective, but actually translating that towards no gi is a little bit more difficult. But when you asked me the question about judo versus wrestling, I think the answer for me is about energy efficiency. And wrestling, you've got good control of your opponent generally around the body. You take them to the floor and you can maintain that grip. And we saw that with Owen Livesey versus
Nicky Rod.
No, last match Owen had.
Who do you have before Nicky? That's gone out of my mind now.
Yeah, the most recent one we did it in the Polaris.
Oh,
Surname. G.
Was it Fabrizio Andre?
Yeah. Sorry, Fabrizio Andre. Difference is you saw some foot sweeps, some exchanges, but what made Fabrizio Andre's takedown on stick was he had that body lock control. So when Owen tried to sit it up, he was there. And I found like my wrestling isn't great, but when I worked on wrestling specifically, I think the energy that goes into the throw to take someone down and hold them down requires a little bit less, and you can chain things together a bit quicker. Whereas in judo, don't get me wrong, like an inside, like an Oichigari, you get a reaction and a reaction. But I think just the contact from wrestling, it allows you to establish a control position.
I think like in terms of submission grappling, like, the biggest kind of elephant in the room with wrestling is like putting yourself into guillotines by doing a sloppy shot. Because a lot of the way, if you literally do a wrestling shot without taking submission wrestling into account, you give your head a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I think the counter to that is that generally with the issue you see with a lot of judo players, if they do the high amplitude throws, is that they tend to overthrow and end up in a worse position.
Well, that's the thing, 'cause you're just going for the ippon, aren't you? And you'll find a lot of times when you look, even at Olympic judo, they'll throw like a big uchimata, and then when they land, they'll roll forwards out of it. And typically you'll see that in jiu-jitsu when people transition from judo, they'll throw, and then they'll roll over and end up on their back.
Throw yourself into mount, basically.
I feel like I'm hating on judo. I love judo, and I think it's amazing the gi, particularly for gi jiu-jitsu. But in terms of no gi, I'm probably more in the wrestling line of things, and I'm shit at wrestling. So
yeah, like I need to like clarify. I haven't done either. I've done judo. I've done wrestling. I haven't done either anything that would be considered like a high level. But I do tend to gravitate more towards wrestling. I do like the foot sweeps at judo. I'm just fucking terrible at them, and it's something I really want to improve. Just because it's fun to foot sweep people.
yeah,
I'm
it's
just
cool, isn't it?
shockingly bad at it. In that I don't think I've ever hit one well. Like I've generally ended up just either a second too slow, so I kick their foot when it's planted, or a second too early, so I kick their foot when it's planted before it moves. So I just end up kicking people a lot.
And then it was when you saw Shane Curtis at that competition recently, it looked like he tie kicked someone.
Yeah.
Just but there was, I know I've mentioned this story to you before, but I remember I started judo a little bit later, so it's after I'd finished skeleton. I was like, I just wanted to do something, and I entered a competition in Gould, and it was like an open competition, but I didn't realise it was like a black belt open competition, and I was an orange belt at the time. So I rocked up to this comp, and I actually did really well in my first match and won it. So I was like, oh great, feeling confident. It was a similar like age physique, so I thought, right, you know what, I'm going to go and win this. And then I was up against a guy who was in his 50s. He's a coach, and I thought like, yeah, right, I'm going to get this guy, here I go. And I remember he stepped, and I was like, right, I can jump in for a Tayatoshi. And as I jumped in for a Tayatoshi, literally the next second, I was like 3 feet horizontal in the air. And just foot swept him. I remember just thinking that was really cool.
In terms of like your training, Susie, because obviously you get regular training with Laura, who's a high level judoka. How do you find it like playing from the feet against her? Are you able to incorporate any like wrestling as opposed in terms of like trying to shut down her judo? Like, how do you find that kind of that dynamic of playing against a high level judo player?
I love training with like people like Laura and Julia as well, high level judo people, because they just move. Their movement is so lovely, and you learn a lot, I think, from actually doing stand up with people that know how to move.
Yeah.
Like you can sort of start emulating what they're doing. But yeah, I feel like with Laura especially, we did a lot of wrestling classes together, so she's actually implemented a lot of wrestling into her stand-up game generally. So I don't think that she falls back on her judo all the time. I think that actually she tries to wrestle most of the time, but it just so happens in competitions, like if someone puts the hip near her, she's going to get a big hip throw. Because that's just her automatic reaction, so she just always got that in her back pocket.
That throw that went viral recently.
Yeah, 2 million views.
Yeah, that's like, it's one of the most like effortless looking throws. It almost looks like when you watch it frame by frame, like that the girl like jumped onto her hip because she pulled her in so quickly with that little like tug, and then just.
Was she trying to attempt like a flying submission or something?
A flying armbar,
yeah.
Because someone shouted that in a corner.
Right, okay. Because she like goes quite far on the hip, and I'm like, bang, smashed into her mat.
Sorry, this is a bit too far away for me to read. So Laura, she says, Susie shuts down my judo all the time.
No idea.
It's so like I say, I'm thinking that we have 3 votes for wrestling overall.
Yeah, but like going to what you were saying there, it's the thing, isn't it? If you have someone who's got a really good framework, it's really easy to teach the things.
That's it.
Because you remember when we were doing some wrestling things, we were talking about the overtie, and then you'll do the shrug to the overtie, and I was like, oh, if we throw a foot sweep in there, and you can throw all that stuff together. I'm not saying judo shit, I love judo, I just want to make this out, but I think in context of no-gi, it's the energy efficiency of the little things, and also the chaining of the wrestling contacts, but it comes down to grips in the end, and I think wrestling teaches wrestling grips, and judo teaches judo grips. Yeah. And so,
I think one of the things that judo players have in spades that you don't see, you kind of get it with wrestling, but it's that the kind of like dynamic speed in their hips.
Yeah.
So like the balance that they get from being able to just switch their hips is ridiculous. Like pretty hard to sweep, you know. So like when when Dane come down to training us. Fucking hell, trying to sweep him is something else.
Yeah, Dane was super high level. So him and Owen used to compete against each other usually like in judo competitions, and Dane kind of went his separate ways. But when you rolled with Dane, you've not rolled for 6 years, mate.
Yeah, he doesn't feel like he's lost a step. Yeah. So 3 votes, although somewhat tentative for wrestling overall, I do feel that it's probably a less risky method and more immediately applicable. Like you can learn judo for no-gi, but I think there's a lot more adjustments have to be made. Whereas wrestling for no-gi, the adjustments aren't as big.
But then when you talk about wrestling, what style of wrestling?
That's
the
a good
thing
point
is like
as well.
when we think about your conventional freestyle versus your Greco, there's certain emphasis on upper body control and lower body control, and I think fundamentally it all stems from the same tree, doesn't it?
Yeah, I noticed in my last match with Barber that my hand fighting is not very good. His hand fighting is very good. So like my freestyle wrestling in terms of like just getting in on the hips is not bad. But the Greco, the tie-ups and things like that, I was finding myself out positioned quite a lot.
But what I took from that match with you and Barbara is something I do, because I'm not really confident in going for doubles, but when I do go for doubles, I do exactly what you did, and you create that little hand separation, and then it's just enough to change levels, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
so you can say your hand fighting wasn't good, but you got the takedown off it.
It's that whole thing of like, if you're here and you bring your hands out, they tend to follow your hands with their hands, so it's just out and boom and go. And I've luckily, touch wood, at the minute, not quite old enough that I have lost all my speed yet. So I've got just enough drive that I could get there. But you're going to have to forgive me for dropping in because I can't see very well here. But
Alex has joined.
Welcome aboard.
Next guest, Alex. Definitely next guest.
So I did put out a ridiculous question to everyone. So you've all kind of weighed in on this. I think actually Susie sent one on this as well. Of how many, and you guys can answer this watching live as well. How many regular-sized ducks do you think you could fight before you're ultimately overwhelmed and killed? So Tom, if you
at one time.
Yeah. So like to clarify, like
okay.
they don't come to you in single file.
Okay.
They could pincer you. They could come in a wave. Like the ducks' kind of method of attack.
So the direction is left to the ducks.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I've got you.
But this is literally like the maximum amount. Like if your life depended on it, what was the maximum amount that you think you could? So if I gave you a financial incentive, so if you got 50 grand per duck that you took down.
Per duck?
Per duck.
Oh, mate. But I'm a man who doesn't need a lot. I'll be like, I'll take 3 ducks.
but if you fall short, the ducks do kill you. So it's high stakes.
Okay, right. The thing is, you got to ask yourself the question: is how is the duck gonna kill me?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to overwhelm me, what is the overwhelm going to lead to? Because they're not particularly heavy creatures.
This is true.
They've got angry beaks, but are they going to break the skin? It'll take them a long time to break the skin. The question is how good is my cardio? And how do I kill the ducks quickly and efficiently? Do you know what? Because only so many ducks, because they're not going to come in layers, are they?
Yeah.
You're at least maybe going to get 7 ducks in a diameter, 8 ducks maybe. Do you know what? I'm going to commit to this. I'll say I reckon I could confidently take out 30 ducks.
30 ducks.
Yeah.
I've just seen Alex has put 40 ducks.
Yeah.
He's a
little bit heavier than me. It makes sense.
It makes sense.
What he's on about.
What are you, Susie? If you could get 50 grand per duck that you could take down, how many do you reckon you could contribute?
I think I would just find the whole experience so upsetting. I just don't think that I could do that many, to be honest. I think I would kill the first one and cry.
No, if you killed the first one, then you threw it.
Yeah, you got
deal with the trauma later, and then.
Yeah. I mean, if my life depends on it, then you're just going to be killing as many as the money incentive actually is not as good to me as just the life. The life depends on it.
Your soul.
I would definitely kill more if my life depended on it. But yeah, I think that it would just be too traumatic. I think maybe 5.
I reckon.
Okay, 250. What can I get?
I think I would aim for 50 because it's a nice round number, but that's a lot of ducks.
That's a lot of ducks.
And
yeah, but that's 50. This is 25 mil, that isn't it?
Yeah, like I could do a lot with 25 mil.
I think if you knew that as well, you could dig deep.
Yeah, I think I could it would be like that last round of cardio that you don't want to do. You know, It's like I could do this. We've had wildly differing numbers coming from everywhere else. So let's have a look. we've had an unlimited amount if they adhere to the Queensberry rules of boxing because they have no arms, which I thought was a pretty well thought out answer in fairness. Because I had originally phrased it as fisticuffs, and they've got no fists, so I could take an unlimited amount.
Okay.
Which I think that was actually you, wasn't it? I think that was your original answer, if I remember rightly. 1 per limb, which I feel like you're underselling yourself.
You got more than that.
Like that's like
because the also thing that you could just do is you could just lay flat on the duck. You could just squash them.
Yeah, I feel like if you take 1 per limb, are you assuming that your limb's only got like one good strike? Like literally, like, it's disabled after like murdering one duck. And then I think I can do more than 1 per limb. I think you're underselling yourself with that. Since they don't have a look, I'd use one as a nunchuck. And and I'd say I would get 42 1/3. So a third of a duck.
But they ain't going to pay out for the third.
Yeah. And like, is that like you would...
Is it the third that kills you? That you're a third of the way through killing it and it takes you out?
Yeah. Or is it like you just disable that last duck? Like, but not badly. Like,
just so he can remember the massacre.
Yeah. He can tell his friends that all went down. I'd say 35, but probably only around 10. So I like that kind of energy, like the confidence. Like 35 that's a fair amount of ducks.
That's someone who's turned up to open mat with high expectations and left defeated.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to come in and bear and bowl everyone. And just find themselves getting
subs.
Yeah, 100%. I back myself against 30. That's just a solid. If I'm standing and the ducks are on the ground, you could take more out. Depends if the ducks attack from different heights. That's quite an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
Because they can fly and like... I suppose ducks can
But
fly.
what can they do?
Yeah.
So my uncle had his back broken by a swan.
Ooh, that's...
So he was quite a... He's got a really... He used to have my uncle used to have a chalet in Wales and he had like a speedboat and he was a bit, like fun thing. And we used to go down, he had this trick where he could sit on a table, put a chair on top of the table and he'd sit reading the newspaper while water skiing.
Yeah.
Sat on the table with a chair on top. But apparently when he was water skiing one time, this was long before I was around, a swan jumped on his back and attacked him when he was water skiing and he fell off his water ski and broke his back. So this would be a very different conversation if we were talking about swans.
Yeah,
I'm scared of swans.
Swans are...
I'd tap out at one. I'm not even going there.
Yeah, I don't know if I could take down a swan. They're pretty bad, man, to be fair. Someone could take 73.
73.
73 ducks.
At that point, once you topped out 20, 30 ducks, you're set for life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If you go to 73, you're just doing it for the pleasure of murdering.
Yeah,
like, you don't need any more money. I think Kumbi is like a bit...
Susie's threshold was 5.
Arguably one. After one, you're doing it for the pleasure of murdering. Like, you don't need more than that.
But I feel like you've crossed the line now.
Yeah, I feel like that's a bit of a massacre. That's just pretty rough going, to be fair. Following on from that, we've got lots of questions for Susie. So I've divided these up. So we basically had a lot of them that came in that were nice, like jiu-jitsu questions and questions about training. So you're going to get a lot of like insight from the mind of like a high-level competitor, which is good. And then there was a lot that came in that are set into another category, which are like debaucherous or just like thirsty things, which we'll ask afterwards. So basically, if you wanted to see Susie blush and I'd be like uncomfortable, you're going to have to hang around till we get through all the jit stuff, and then she's going to get asked a bunch of random things.
We'll try and be quick through the jit stuff because we know what everyone wants to hear.
Yeah, everyone's going to be so there was a lot of like a lot of the regular ones that you get that you probably answered a bunch of times. Like, what got you started in jiu-jitsu? How did you find it?
So I always wanted to try martial art. I was doing a lot of bouldering and climbing at the time with 2 lads who used to train, and they would, in a climbing gym, they've got soft mats, so they would just be like double legging each other across the gym and like rolling around. And I asked if there were any girls that trained at the gym, and they said no. So I said, well, I'm not, I've always wanted to do it, but I'm not going to come if there's no girls. And then my friend Vic took on a charity match. She wasn't my friend at the time, she's now. But Vic took on a charity match, so she started training. So they invited me to the pub, introduced me to her. I went along the following Monday and met her again there, and then that was it. We were just spent the next 2 years rolling about the floor as white belts together, having a great time.
That's ace, to be fair. She's still training as well, isn't she?
Yeah.
Sweet. So it's good when you start something with someone that sticks it through with you as well, because like being that we've been involved in it for a while, we've seen a lot of people come and go, obviously. So the fact that she kind of got that first step with you and is still doing it. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it keeps you accountable as well when you've got someone that you know is going to the gym. Yeah,
100%. We've also got, so there's a lot revolving around your job. So obviously, do you have a job, which we know, how old you are. So basically, I'm going to kind of put these into like one big question. So how old are you? What do you do for work? And how do you balance your training? Like, what is your training schedule? How do you balance that with your job? Assuming that you have one, because the second question is obviously, do you work?
So I am the grand old age of 30. I work for NHS England. I work on the National Cancer Programme, and I work from home the majority of the time. So I do like travel to London a bit because the majority of the cancer programme team is based in London. But ever since the pandemic, I've been able to work from home the majority of the time. So I only go to London now once every maybe 6 weeks, and that just allows me. You know, I don't have to travel to and from work every day. It means that at 5 o'clock I can log off and get straight to training. My work are very good. They know about all of my jiu-jitsu life, and they're very supportive of it all. And so I can work flexibly, and that's how I go to like IMA or Leeds on like Friday mornings and stuff, because I can just work my hours around training. Yeah. So it keeps me happy. It keeps me in the job.
I was going to say it's good to have them on board with it as well. So shout out to them.
Yeah.
In terms of your actual, like, say, what's your typical week look like in terms of jiu-jitsu training, S&C training? Like, if you were to take like an average week, what would your week look like?
So Monday no-gi, Tuesday gi, Wednesday no-gi, Thursday no-gi, Friday no-gi, Saturday S&C and no-gi, and then Sunday no-gi.
Nice. So you got one S&C session a week and then a lot of grappling.
Yeah. So before when I was injured and I was doing a lot less grappling, I was doing a lot more S&C. And then as I've been building up all of my jiu-jitsu training, I've been scaling back my S&C. But I also do, like this week, I've been on 3 like runs in the morning as well. So I do like bits and bobs around as well.
So I think what you'll take from that as well is that a lot of people, because obviously you haven't been grappling that long. It's how long?
4 years.
4 years, right? So for Susie to go from like within 4 years to be one of the better people that I've rolled with, right? It's mat time as opposed to years, right? Because my time on the mats is like 18 or 19 years. But I don't train like 6-7 times a week. I've upped my training now, but you see there, like the amount of time that you get on the mats is going to just lead to like exponential growth in terms of like technique and ability.
Yeah. So most people, the average person probably trains like twice a week.
Yeah,
so I'm getting like more than triple the amount of training as them. So one year to them it's like 3 years.
100%.
Like I'm fitting like 3 years of training into that.
It's like microwave jiu-jitsu, isn't it? Like, cook a roast for like 8-hour roast in like 20 minutes, especially like your jiu-jitsu career. It's like, bing.
So I've got a bit of a question just to add to that, because I am curious from the perspective of someone who takes. Right, I'm going to make Susie blush a little bit now, but I see quite a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes, and I think there's a difference in jiu-jitsu between professional sport. So the athletes who are elite in other sports have certain attributes, the way that they monitor their training, the way that they monitor their recovery. They're pretty dialed into those things. I think the problem that I have from a clinical perspective is with jiu-jitsu is they don't have a professional approach usually. They're trying to just like burn the candle on both ends. So if I had someone come in and say they train 6 times a week and then they do one S&C session, they'd be like, well, you need to do more S&C. So I guess, and I think you take a very professional approach to jiu-jitsu generally. What are some kind of biggest misconceptions maybe you see in the jiu-jitsu community about strength and conditioning? And also, what value does strength and conditioning give you in your training?
So I think the biggest misconception is that you have to do loads on top of your jiu-jitsu, and that your jiu-jitsu isn't strength and conditioning, because actually you get a lot. Before I even picked up a weight, when I first started doing jiu-jitsu, I was packing on loads of muscle, and I got so much better in general conditioning. Like I could go out for long runs and stuff, which I couldn't do before, just from the mat time. So people don't think that you're doing any strength training or conditioning training because you're not calling it S&C, but actually I'm getting that in every single day when I'm on the mat. Sorry, what was your second question?
So the question really was, I guess, like, so we talked about common misconceptions, and I also said like what what value does S&C give you? So why do you choose to use S&C rather than just spend time on the mat alone?
I think that I like to be able to like have like concrete progress that I can see happening. So I like to actually like be able to see like
markers.
Markers. That's it. So I like to be able to see like I'm hitting a PB on this week. I should be hitting a PB, for example, tomorrow, which is being planned in by Michael because it's going to give me that boost before I go into Euros, knowing that I am the strongest I've ever been because I'm lifting up the heaviest object I ever have in my life.
Yeah.
And I think that in my life, in general, I like to have lots of different little goals. Recently I've added like handstand walking just as a random thing because actually I just like to have lots of things that I like to be able to feel like I'm achieving things every week. It's not just everything's focused on one big competition. It's like I like to have those markers and those little goals that I can hit.
I like that.
As you've been saying that, we've had Alice just put in that you're a machine. Just
so
you know, he's just popped up.
I mean, she's my best friend, so she would say.
Yes, so this one's pretty funny. I don't know. I'm guessing this one probably came from one of your training partners, and they put toughest / most frustrating training partner.
Oh, who is my toughest, most frustrating training partner?
So those two things that they might not be the same person. You might have the toughest one and then one that frustrates you, or they might frustrate you because they.
Before you answer that question, I saw the video of the role you put up against Nico, and that looked pretty frustrating.
I was about to say. Do you know what? I was about to say, can my coach be that? He's the only person that can like really get away with like totally mauling me without me crying, and I think it's because first of all he is my coach, so there's an element of like. I don't know, like any other random training partner, if I went to an open mat, if someone just mauled me, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Whereas, Nico's my coach, he knows me well. And also, obviously, Nico's been rolling with me since I was a day one white belt. So he really actually does know how far he can push it before, like, I'm really pissed off.
Yeah.
So he just knows me so well, and he knows my game so well. So yeah, probably Nico if he's allowed to be one, but not in a negative way.
Yeah.
They just really every single round is just really.
So I'd say that's like similar for me and Josh Taylor. Like I've rolled with Josh for quite a few years, and his guard passing is my nightmare. So over the years, I've started to realise what he does and how he's going to transition. And I know I'm going to lose. It's just how long it takes me to lose. Yeah, and then he ends up in full mount and I can't get out, and there's some variation of. Either like this, or he's going to triangle choke me from that, and there's nothing I can do to stop it.
Yeah. Like those training partners, or coaches in this case, which also doubles up as a training partner. They're very valuable to have.
Yeah.
But there are days when you literally want to pull your hair out. You're just like, because they just shut your shit down so much.
Completely.
Yeah.
I also think it's the intention of someone and the intention that they're bringing to the role. So Nico's intention is only to make me better, and I know that it all comes out of that place. Whereas, like, if someone else, like I say, randomly, that I didn't really know that well, mold me like that, I would think that they had a negative intention.
Yeah. That's true. To be fair.
The interesting thing, just to revisit some of the S&C side of things, because I've noticed this in how you approach training and partners, you. Confident to say no to certain roles, which I think is a really valuable thing, because that's a conversation I've been having with myself, when in reality I realise like I'm 70 odd kilos and most of my training partners are 10 to 15 kilos heavier than me, so I'm always quite mindful I'm starting to become more mindful of that, because there is a physical toll there, but also you say you can do 6 sessions a week, but in reality if someone approaches the mindset of going I'm just going to go hard every session, you can't sustain that. So I guess for you, because I've noticed when you roll in and how you roll with different people, how do you keep that mindset of trying to sometimes dial it back, because I see you do that quite a lot, versus then going all out, because I see a lot of people struggle with that?
In general, people, I think, match your energy. So I will enter into a role with a very calm energy, if that's the type of training session that I'm having, and then people will generally match it. If people don't match my energy, then I just won't, I'll just clock that I'm just not going to roll with them again. And I communicate with my training partners as well. Like, so for example, today I had a few rounds with Laura. Our first one, we have a warm-up round, and then we roll with different people, and the next time I rolled with her, like, right, let's stand up, more competition style round. So you can also just communicate with your training partners about the type of roles that you want.
Well, Josh Taylor said something. I was on the phone to him today, and he said that someone at the club the other night, jumped to him and he was like, "Oh, do you want to have a role?" And the guy was like, "No." And he's like, "I respect that."
Yeah.
Because actually he's protecting himself. He doesn't know. I don't know what is going on, and in moving past that culture historically, he's like, you never refuse a role with your coach. And actually, no, I really like that. He's looking after himself.
Yeah, 100%. We had basically, how's your prep going for the Euros? Which I suppose you wouldn't say like, oh, it's going shit, even if it was going shit. But how are you feeling? How are you feeling for it?
Well, obviously it's my first competition back. After, it's going to be 9 months since I last competed, and my emotions just change like day to day with it. Depends on, and also roll to roll. If I have a shit roll, then I'm like, oh my god, and then the next minute I have a good roll, and I'm like, yes, let's go. But I think that's just always the case, and that's part of the enjoyment and the fun in competing to me. It just adds a bit of flavour to just my life in general. But training is going really well. My body, I've never felt stronger, I've never felt fitter. I don't currently have any injuries. So camp's in full swing and going well.
Nice, good to hear. Okay, so how did you cope mentally recovering from injury, and is there any advice you can give to people experiencing similar injuries or in a similar situation that you've just been in?
My biggest advice would be to get the help that you need. So obviously, huge thanks to Tom. No, but honestly, you were amazing throughout the whole of it. So even like when I came out of my surgery, after a few days, you were in touch with me. When I was like freaking out one night because I heard some like noise in my knee, you were straight on the phone to me. You did all of that, which is just because you're a friend as well as a physio. So definitely get the help in terms of like professionals that you need it. So I had Tom, I had my strength and conditioning coach Michael, who I was back in the gym with him doing things after a couple of weeks, and we really just had to change all of my goals, and I had to just I had to make that switch in my head. I am someone that I need things to be working towards, and I need goals, so I had to swap my goals from my upcoming competitions. Obviously those were all out the window, and my new goals became rehab based goals, strength and conditioning based goals. And I think just making sure that you are talking to people, because loads of people have been through injuries, and the more that I started talking to people about what I was going through, and especially mentally, because there were some really like horrible dark days, the more you talk to people about that, the more like you connect with people, and you realise that everyone goes through these things, and people are just more than happy to support and help, really.
Yeah, I think that's like, it's one of those things that it's easy when you're in that situation yourself, like obviously debilitating injury, first time that you've been injured like that severely, I'm guessing, like it's easy to think like, oh fuck, it's like the worst thing that happens, it's only but you don't realise that a lot of people have gone through that, and that you can kind of take the advice from them. So obviously people listening to this, I hope you take the advice from Susie that you're going to have shit days, but reach out to people and they'll tell you, that experience, it's not going to be like a linear in terms of like your mood. You're probably going to have a lot of this going through that. But like I say, get people that can help you and approach it with the same mindset that you approach jiu-jitsu, like discipline, and you're gonna be right. We had, so I suppose rude question generally to ask a woman, but you can get away with it. BJ, what is your weight category?
So my weight category is lightweight, so that's 61 kg. This morning I was 62.5, so I've got a kg and a half to go, but I've got 2 weeks, so that's fine. I did try competing at middleweight. I went up to middleweight last year at the Euros, but I'm just not a middleweight. I just sit in between the two. I walk around, even after my surgery, and when I was moving a lot less, I was still walking around at like 63 and a half kg. So it's just a lot better for me just to drop a little bit of weight.
What's the threshold for middleweight?
Like 66 and a half.
Okay, yeah.
And it makes a difference at the higher levels. Like every advantage you can get is going to be worth having, So having someone that's naturally just a bigger frame is going to be like an obstacle that's hard to overcome,
Yeah.
And you've not cut weight in a week.
Exactly.
That's the thing. You monitor it that way, haven't you?
So, in Susie's opinion, are there any up-and-coming female fighters that she's hearing good things about, or maybe that you've rolled with, or future stars to keep an eye out for? Also, because this was a two-parter, would Susie look to make jiu-jitsu a full-time career, if possible? As in, like, coaching and competing. So those are two very different questions, but they came from the same person, so they're all in the same little blurb. So firstly, up-and-coming female fighters that you maybe have heard about, rolled with, or ones to watch out for?
Definitely Laura. I think she's gonna be. No one knows about her yet, really, but she's gonna be such a superstar. Yeah, she's so exciting to watch, and she just goes for it. She's always looking for the submission. She's always looking for big takedowns. She's so skilled. Yeah, I just can't wait to see what she does over the next year or two. I think that she's just going to be flying. And then second question.
If you had the opportunity, or is it if you
would I go full-time
jits? Yeah.
I don't think so. I quite like. You know what? Even though I look like a degenerate most of the time, and I look like this is all that I do. I actually am a professional woman, and I enjoy that. I enjoy that side of it. I worked really hard. Throughout. Throughout all my teenage years, I went to university. I studied biochemistry. I worked really hard throughout my early 20s. Like, I was just going for promotion after promotion after promotion. Like what you see now in terms of me going, like working really hard in jiu-jitsu. Before I had jiu-jitsu, I was channeling that into like education and work. And so I really worked hard to be where I'm at now, and I enjoy doing what I do. So I don't think that I would want to go full time. I like being a competitor rather than a coach or a teacher. But I think that maybe in the future, when I'm really old and grey, I could see myself like taking like someone under my wing a little bit. If I want to step back from competition, but still want to be like amongst it somehow, and trying to help someone pave their path. But yeah, I don't see myself like quit my job anytime soon.
That's good to say. I think like probably a very sensible option financially, because it's not. Jiu-jitsu is stereotypically not the most affluent sport to get involved in terms of the money you can make, although it is growing now, which is good. But yeah, I don't think it's a sound career move for most people, like to go all in on it.
No, there's a side to it from a psychology perspective. You actually do need that distraction, like the attention switching side of things. Because I remember when back in my athlete days, it was my whole job. And so, like, it was my entire focus all the time. And I actually found that really draining.
Yeah.
So I remember, like, I used to go to sleep and all I would see is the track. And I'd imagine, right, in this corner I need to be doing this stair, I need to think about this when I'm going out. And then I wake up and I'm like, right, I need to be doing this training, my food. It's very all-consuming. And a few years, because I always found, like, rugby league and union and football were quite ahead of this, they made sure that then when their athletes were away, they allocated time for them to develop a vocation. So like accountancy and other things. And they saw way better results in terms of like mental health measures because they had that attention switching. And I find that even though I've dropped a day at work, I'm still really busy 4 days a week. But I know like on my Friday, I can attention switch. On my Thursday night, and I can coach jiu-jitsu. I can organise things with the club and do the other jobs that I do in physio. And that's quite refreshing. It gives you a bit of a breather.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I think it can take the joy out of it if it's literally like all you rely on, It's Jake's just popped in and see like Danny Lukic pop up on the pod. Let's go! Oh yeah, so suppose a couple of you would have heard us call Susie Danny Lukic at some point. Self-given, yeah.
I think it was actually Jake.
Was it?
Yeah, I think that he can take the.
So what's the story behind Danny Lukic for those that don't know?
So back when IMA Murfield was a Sunday broken man, which it's always broken man to me.
Me too, mate.
It was Father's Day one Sunday, and Jake had brought in some chocolates, and he'd written in the group that he was bringing in chocolates for all the fathers on Father's Day. So I said, well, just call me I think I just said call me daddy because I'll get those chocolates. And then I think Nick must have said Daddy Lukic and then it stuck from there. But I like it.
I do.
That is like, I originally thought like when you label yourself like Battle Dwarf, I was like that should be the nickname, but I think Daddy Lukic is the
Daddy
one.
Lukic
Like
is
that's
right,
gonna be
right.
like. So I think we should start a petition to like label Susie like Daddy Lukic as an actual announceable nickname, like when she goes out to
Susie the
compete.
Daddy Lukic.
Yeah.
It's in the next Grapple Fest.
Yeah, that'll be amazing. So if you're watching this,
Can we get merch?
If you, Susie the Daddy merch.
I wonder if Adapt would do me a rash guy with Daddy Lukic on the back.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Please
Adapt,
do.
so we're going to tag Adapt in this. So if you're in the comments now, like tag Adapt and tell them to make Susie a custom Daddy Lukic rash guard.
Absolutely.
Which would be fucking amazing. All right, and we've also had. We've looked at that one already. Best and worst gyms you've ever trained at.
Ooh. How are we going to answer that question?
I
Yeah,
mean, that's a very difficult question to
I
answer.
was going to say that's.
You've done any PR training here, Susie?
I train at probably like 5 different gyms every week. I'm everywhere. I think people are very confused actually about what's my gym. But my gym is BMA, Halifax. I think that, best gym. They're all great for different reasons, and that's why I train at different places and like to learn from different coaches because you just learn from different styles, and it's always good to train with different bodies. You get different reactions from them. In terms of just like facilities, maybe IMA Leeds would be the best one. Just because it's it's got like
It's
it's like crisp, it's lovely. The mats are spongy. The toilets are always clean, and there's always soap in them. You don't get a lot of gyms. Worst gym.
You can say I'm a Murfield for now.
No,
because we're moving. Announcement. We're moving to a new spot.
I can. Yeah.
There you go.
We've got a waiting area, coffee machines.
That is going to.
It's all good. It's going to be good.
Nice plug there.
Sorry,
That was very opportunistic, but
take what I can.
this was a long one. Any advice for women as newbies to BJJ, dealing with nerves rolling with guys or upper belts, frustration? This is quite a long one, by the way. The frustrations of it just not making any sense on most days, and the feeling that you're annoying whoever you're rolling with because you're so shit and spazzy. There's a lot to unpack there.
In terms of feelings of like you're annoying everyone because you're so shit and spazzy, like you probably are, but like what you got to remember is everyone was like that one time, and so you've just kind of got to own it a little bit. In the same way that like learner drivers on the road can be just annoying when they're in your way, but everyone had to learn, and you won't always be that shit spazzy white belt. So just keep coming, and it doesn't take people long before like white belts are like fine to drill with and roll with. And you can also ask for people if it's like if it's specifically rolling. I think like ask people for feedback in terms of just like how did you pitch that roll or whatever. But normally people will tell you. I think you'll get a vibe if you're really crap training partner. I certainly give people a vibe anyway. In terms of being a new woman in jiu-jitsu and nerds rolling with men, I think that this is a really tricky one because even me as a higher level woman in jiu-jitsu, people don't always want to approach you or ask you to roll because they're just worried that they don't. I don't know. Well, actually, I don't know. Why is that? Do you think?
I don't know if it's they don't want to seem potentially confrontational, or they don't know you, or maybe they don't feel confident in how they can roll with you, like what you'd expect, whether you expect them to give, what level of resistance you'd expect them to give. So they might think like, oh, what if I go in and I'm way too physical, and that's not the kind of role she's looking for. Or conversely, if I go in and I give like no resistance, and she thinks, well, that was a waste of a round because this person didn't put up any resistance whatsoever. So I think, and like from the perspective of anyone that feels like that, I always say like I approach rolling with women the same way I approach rolling with lighter guys. Like I don't just treat them like they're glass and they're going to break, because if you go in and you give no resistance, you're going to get fucked up. Like you're going to get fucked up bad. Doesn't matter how small they are, they're going to fuck you up. But if you go in there just being a big meathead, then no one gets anything from it. Like, you don't learn because you're just overpowering someone and you're not going to work your own skills that way. So, like, you just approach it like, I'm rolling with a lighter guy. So I don't need to treat them like they're fragile, but I also don't want to be like a big, fat, heavy dickhead and lay on you and wound you, you know? So that would be my advice to anyone in that situation. And I suppose that could be what they're thinking.
Yeah. So basically, what I guess I'm trying to say is it doesn't necessarily get better the better you get in terms of people approaching you for rounds, but you will just get better at, you'll find your training partners that you like, and you'll get better at approaching other people. And you should you can approach people and just say, I'm a new white belt, and don't really know what I'm doing, and everyone will be so nice to you if you say that. So.
We've got a couple of our new white belts jumping in as we speak, actually, to be fair. So it's good to see you guys want to listen to this, because Susie's very, very good grappler, and you'll probably find her on our mats at some point. We've also had... Okay, so this one was an interesting one from a mental standpoint. So I love being active, but there's days where I mentally struggle to get myself to training, even when I want to go. Do you have those kind of days? And if so, how do you power through them, or how do you kind of change your mindset so that you go, basically?
So you can't give 100% every day. So what I just tell myself always is I'm just going to go and do what I can that day. And sometimes it might just be, right, I might just, even if there are I just clearly love jiu-jitsu a lot, and I love training a lot, and I do it every day, so I might not actually be the best person to ask this question. But if there are days where I don't want to go and I don't want to do something, I just tell myself, right, I'm just going to go and do the technique, and then that gets me through the door. And once I've done the technique, I'll actually then just start rolling with everyone afterwards. Or if it's like a strength and conditioning session that I'm doing on my own, I'll say, right, I'm just going to go and do 20 minutes of my favourite thing, which might be I'm just going to do some squats. And then by the time I've done those squats, I just carry on with my session. So I think that it's basically just, every day doesn't have to be the most amazing training session that you've done that day. I think it's more about consistency. And this is why after I had my knee surgery and I couldn't actually roll and train anymore, I still went to the gym most days, and I would just, even at the beginning, I would just do my rehab sat at the side of the mat watching it, because actually I realised that it's a matter of habit rather than, and if I knew if I got out of the habit for months of going to the gym, I might actually not go back. So I think if you can just stick to achievable and make it a habit, so you just make yourself go even if you're not doing that much, it's just something to build on, basically.
100%. And I think, like, I can't remember who said it, but it's along the lines of even not half-assed, but even like a light training session that you don't want to be to is going to get you more progress than sitting on the couch and ruminating over it, and like a lot of it does come down to like the mental games or the mental discipline to get yourself to go. And ultimately, it sounds mean to say, but that ultimately falls down to you. Like, you have ultimate control of whether you go or not. And if you say, I just couldn't face going today, but you couldn't face the idea of going most of the time rather than the actual reality of going. Because I've had sessions where I don't want to go, and I was like, and I have to talk myself into it, even though I love being here, I love rolling. And I always tell myself, it's like, I know for a fact that I'm going to feel better after it's done. Mm-hmm. I've had sessions where I've driven there and sat at the steering wheel like, okay, come on, let's go. Like kind of self-talking myself to get into the sesh because I just don't feel it that day. But as soon as I'm on the mats, do a round or so, and that's it. I'm away, It's like my happy place. Ooh, we've had a long one coming here. Spot on this day. Don't feel well mentally, physically, turned up just to drill technique, ended up having a few rounds sparring. Exactly, that's exactly it. It's like, you show up and do something. And generally, like, the trick of it is that when you show up and start doing something physical, you get that little boost of endorphins from doing it anyway, and it tends to lift your mood so that the rest of it doesn't seem so daunting.
Like, how many sessions have you gone to with that mindset? Like, I bet you've never sat in front of your steering wheel and gone, oh, I've got to get myself in, but I can do it. I bet you've never left that session going, I feel worse for doing that.
No, 100%.
Never,
not a single time. Even the sessions where I've gone in and I have got smashed a bit more, I've come back and thought, right, I need to work on this. It's given me like a new focus.
I was thinking a bit when you were saying that then, Susie. Have you read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
Yes, yeah.
Basically describe that cycle there where you you do the thing, you create the stimulus, then you create the response, and then you just hardwire that process in.
Yeah.
And rather than, because I think you see this in personal training, I see this in physio, you see this in diet. It's like the binge eating cycle, where you'll say, you know what, I'm going to do 7 sessions this week. Yeah. And then they don't turn up to one like, well, what's the point? I'll just throw it all in the bin.
Yeah, I've got a couple of clients that are like that. Like they'll take on, they won't do anything for months and months. Like they'll literally have like a depressive episode or an episode where it's not fancying training. They won't do anything for ages, and then they'll come back and they'll be like, right, I'm going to train like 7 times this week. I was like, try once. Like,
just do the one.
Go for 1 session. Like, you've literally gone from doing nothing. Like because if you put that burden on yourself, like I have to do 7 sessions a week. If you do 3 sessions that week, you're going to feel like a failure because you set 7. Where in reality, 3 sessions a week compared to what you just been doing is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, and like, net over a month is way different, right?
Exactly, yeah. And that brings an end to our sensible questions.
Can I start the debauchery?
You can start the
statement.
Debauchery.
Okay, so I put out a statement around, do we have any anonymous questions or any questions for Susie? And the first message I got was, I want Susie to suffocate me with her thighs.
No! Was that
I don't know.
Anonymous? Oh my god.
And I've got another one. One thing before I go to the debauchery, actually. Someone asked you if you could call anyone out for a super fight, who would you call out?
Well, if I could call it out for a super fight, who would it be? I'll think about that one.
Yeah, come back to that. We'll go straight into debauchery then.
So we just had like Ella put in there about the all or nothing approach. All or nothing approach tends to get you the nothing, not the all. That's like the takeaway that I've found from that. So the first one that came in was actually a sweet one, which I suspect probably came from a girl. This did come in
Yeah, definitely.
It was not a question. Just wanted to tell you that you have the most striking blue eyes, which I think is too sweet for a guy to send in. So I imagine that came in probably from a girl.
I think that was Katie. Probably.
Yeah, it sounds like Katie. Yeah,
it's quite like, it's quite sweet. BJJ in the bedroom, banned or fair game?
Bedroom is for loving, not fighting. I think banned.
I feel like from a practical standpoint, it wouldn't be the most effective. Like escaping mount and passing guard, like you're either going to like significantly degrade your BJJ performance by not escaping mount and not passing guard, so that'll translate to the mats, or you're going to significantly degrade your lovemaking abilities by like just throwing your partner off mount, or I think I don't think there's any gain from mixing the two.
No, I just don't think it's a transferable skill.
No. I think I'd go as far to say that one actively harms the other.
Yeah. You're right there.
It's like that meme of like a guy sat at the end of the bed after a sesh with his missus, and he's like, she's in full guard for 5 minutes and didn't pass once. It's one of those.
5 minutes?
Yeah, I know. Fucking marathon man. Then we had most attractive quality in a guy and least attractive quality in a guy.
Who was asking this question?
These are all anonymous.
Of course they are.
Yeah. So you're brave from anonymity.
I think attractive qualities are just like someone that's, like doing stuff, got goals, working towards things, similar to me in that sense, I guess. Least attractive quality, someone that just wants to sit on the sofa night after night, because that would just, it's just not gonna. It's just not going to mesh well with my lifestyle. But I mean, you do you, Hood. It's just not. It's just probably not, someone that I'm going to mesh well with.
Yeah. It's like the equivalent of like a CrossFit athlete living with a crackhead or something. Like it's not.
So what you're going to probably find then is we know who this is because they get backstage and they're like, I'm always after my goals.
Yeah. We see that kind of thing coming across. Or like if one of my clients mentions me, right, let's get back on it now. Figured you out.
Does Susie train with you on a one night?
Yeah, exactly. Would you date a lower belt?
Absolutely not. Of
Disgusting.
course, I would date people that don't do jiu-jitsu. Like it just, and as long as they've got something that they're passionate about. I've I'm not a hierarchical person. To be honest, if it was someone that was a really shit training partner, that might put me off.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. That's like
it's
an unattractive quality. If someone's just a shit training partner, but like people can be shit training.
I love how you
partners
say that
anyhow.
with such passion, like a
Shit training partner.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna date.
Yeah, you got all in for that.
But yeah, belts doesn't matter.
You can't spit on the floor here; it's not allowed.
Yeah. I would go the opposite way and say that I feel like I'd feel a bit inadequate if I dated a black belt.
Do you
Really?
think?
Yeah,
Let's explore this.
I'd be like, I feel like jiu-jitsu was like my life's passion. I put all my and it, like I get confronted with people that are better than me at it daily on the mats.
Yeah.
So if I had like a partner and it's like, fuck, even you are better than me at this, I feel like I should just go sit in the corner and
Dare we say the word cook? Would it make you feel like a cook?
it would.
Yeah.
I feel like I would be like she'd be the bull, I'd be the cuck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah,
you know, I feel like I feel somewhat emasculated.
that's interesting.
Well, that is a masculine quality, really. To be fair,
No,
I feel more just inadequate.
I have a problem with it. I probably just. I'm so settled. I just don't even want to think about having to be in a relationship. I like my relationship. It's good. Yeah, don't know. No, let's think about that. Would I date? Yeah, I don't care. I like having separate chunks in my life, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like having my physio life, like my jiu-jitsu life, my family life. I don't want those worlds to
Compartmentalised.
completely mesh.
That's actually the way that you compartmentalize that is how I eat my food randomly. So like if I've got I was talking to someone about this and we were laughing because they were like, yeah, I eat like that, but that's because I'm autistic. And I was like, wow, interesting. But for me, for example, if I had a roast dinner, so we got chicken, potatoes, veg, all that stuff, I would eat each of those in order from least favourite to most favourite.
Do you finish with the meat?
Finish with the meat,
Yeah,
obviously.
me too, mate. I'm with you there.
Unless there's a Yorkshire pudding, then that's kind of like a dessert. I'd go with that last.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
However, not only will I eat them in that order, I won't have a little bit of something else until the first compartment is finished. So it'll be veg first before I move on to the potatoes.
I'm like that.
And not a single bite of potato will pass my lips until all the veg is gone.
Right, so let's take the roast dinner because you've chosen a really, like, it's not a meal you eat a lot of.
I was going to say it's quite an eclectic. Like,
so if we were to say something like you had steak, chips and peas.
So peas first, chips second.
Oh,
steak.
really?
Yeah.
Interesting. No, that is interesting.
And also, randomly, it carries over into stupid things. Like if I have a curry, right?
Yeah.
So I'll take the curry, mix it up with the rice, so you've got all the sauce. And then I'll eat most of the rice before I move on to the meat. So I say most of the rice because it will be all of the rice apart from the rice that's actually stuck onto the meat itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I basically clean out all the rice and be like, right now I should eat the meat that has a bit of rice on it. So
where are you with this, Susie?
In terms of, I think I just switched off.
Yeah, she's got it.
Yeah, she's like,
It's all right. Just ignore the question.
Yeah, let's carry on.
So.
He's tired. I need to get in bed.
So this one kind of carries on actually. What is your guilty pleasure?
Like really like trash reality TV.
What's your favourite?
Have you watched the recent one that's gone, which is My Mum, Your Dad?
No.
It's really good. I actually cried. It's so good.
What is it?
It's basically where a load of like kids take their parents to live in this like mansion where they all date, where the parents date, and they think that there are like relationship experts which are matching them, getting them to do stuff, but it's just all the kids that are watching them.
Right, yeah.
But actually there's some really touching stories in it and it's just hilarious, and yeah, it's a nice TV. I definitely watch it. I also am a big Keeping Up with Kardashians fan. And
Oh, I think I lost respect for you.
I
was like,
really trash. I really do like trash TV and chocolate. That's also my
chocolate.
pleasure.
Chocolate's the one. This one kind of carries on from one of the things that come up last time. What are your feelings on scrambled eggs?
Oh mate, look, we're not
with
going here again.
salad cream.
Oh god, no.
Ugh,
You can't. If you've said the Kardashian thing and then you say this, we're going to have problems here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I've ever had it.
I'm off again.
Yeah. It's
Who's someone who was it Claire?
I think it was Claire that mentioned it.
Mate, the
and then,
It's making me feel sick. You're gagging right now.
It's just, it's so upsetting.
It is upsetting. Why would you do that? I said this to Gillian. I'm
Is
like,
it like in a sandwich?
mate, get right. So you take bread.
Stop
Good.
gagging.
Sorry, I'll stop talking. Toast, scrambled eggs, right? And you think, what can I put on my scrambled eggs? And you
You're
squeeze
making me
salad
feel
cream.
sick,
Yes.
but I think that I could eat
You
it.
could. Is it just because I gags?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop gagging.
It's so now like every like I'd say every couple of weeks, like
I feel
Kate-
haunted by this.
Yeah.
Like, people send me images. I'm
yeah, that's what
stop it.
like Katie sent me the other day like some scrambled egg salad
we're
cream. I was
disgusting
like,
people.
oh, it just
Like,
upset
it makes
so
me
much.
question human beings that you would do that. Like, I feel haunted by this.
Yeah,
This podcast was my safe space, and now people are coming in and invading my Instagram with pictures of eggs and salad cream on it.
Yeah.
Disgusts me.
it's so upsetting. Like it deeply unsettles me that.
Oh.
So I'm just going to outright say that Susie said she wasn't a fan of that. Just for what we found was actually a really clear divide with that between guys and girls.
Yeah.
All the guys didn't like it. All the girls did.
Yeah.
It was literally that clear.
And I said this to Gillian, she'd like, I'd be open to that.
Yeah.
What do you like with salad cream on lasagna? Because that's something that I see a lot of girls do
I've
too.
never had that salad cream on lasagna.
You wouldn't think to mix it, would you? You just eat lasagna.
Yeah.
So, it's good enough. Interesting.
I think you know what I think my dislike for salad cream stems from my ex. So this was way back when in uni. So this was like nearly 20 years ago.
Right, okay.
And she would do things like it was
Throw
just,
salad cream balls out.
no, it was just like her eating habits were so strange in that. So because she's obviously a student in well, in fact, I won't say where she was because that will out her.
Oh, really?
And if she ever listens to this,
Yeah.
So she was in a respectable degree, I would say.
Okay.
And I went to visit her, and she was like cooking at the stove. So she basically had like some pasta, that's student meal, tuna pasta, right?
Yeah.
So she had like tuna pasta that she like drained it and for that. She basically tipped the can of tuna into the saucepan and then just squirted it with salad cream and then started eating it out of the fucking. Well, that's a big spider.
Whoa! That is a big spider.
Notice him moving there. He's kind of conscious.
So we learned from this as
I
well.
don't really
Susie
like
doesn't
fat
really like
body.
spiders.
Yeah, Susie doesn't
I
like
don't like
spiders.
spiders.
Good, you stay down there. But yeah,
We're
she's
gonna do
eating
this
it,
now, hey?
eating it out
Yeah.
of the saucepan.
Yeah.
It was. I think that scarred me for life, pretty much.
I can eat salad cream in tuna. I think it's superior to mayonnaise with tuna.
Yeah, I'd be.
But
agree with that.
that's as far as it goes. That's all it's there for.
So, Susie, do you have beef with anyone in the BJJ world, and would you take it out on them on the mats?
If I had beef with someone, I would take it out with that one.
You just gotta fuck them up, like.
No, I don't have beef with anyone. Let me think. No, I don't have beef with anyone in general. I don't think in life. I'm just not a
Combative person.
Yeah,
In a
don't
very
think
combative
so.
sport.
yeah.
We had. Would you ever get with someone who's in a relationship?
This is clearly someone that's in a relationship. No, leave me alone.
Principled. So yeah, I imagine that's probably someone.
Why would you say yeah?
Yeah,
Can
I
you
think.
imagine if I was like,
You know what? Yeah, I'd be really interested. I'm really attracted to married men.
Yeah, I
You
think
know what I
like,
mean?
even if you would, I don't think it'd be a good thing to say.
No.
Like, yeah, it's something you lie about. Like, and finally, the most awkward one, and I don't know who sent this one in. Actually, I think I suspect who this one is. Snog, marry, and avoid out of Cos, Tom, and Buckle.
Thanks for the question, Chris.
Buckle definitely asked that question. I would avoid Buckle.
Show the
And,
spider. We've lost him now. He's gone.
Enter into a polyamorous marriage with these two.
Thanks.
That's
Oh,
well,
well,
I'll take that.
diplomatic.
I was going to say that's some
That was
very
well done.
Which involves no snogging.
celibate
Just
marriage.
jiu-jitsu.
Just jujitsu.
I've got another question just to add to this. Someone said, would you go for personality or looks? Because apparently they're mutually exclusive.
I would go for both.
There you go.
Why
She knows
not?
what she wants. It's a good one.
I want both.
I think you have to be like quite honest with it in that if someone had like absolutely no physical attributes that you're attracted
Oh
to,
yeah, mate. No
Like-
chance.
like, it doesn't matter if they're a
Right.
fantastic person and you really enjoy their personality, but at the end of the day,
Right. I might say something that's going to get me cancelled here, but I'll go for it. A long time ago, back when I was in a cult, I was driving back from like the church used to do these events for 18 and 30-year-olds called YSA, which is Young Single Adults. also known as the meat market. And I remember driving back from a dance that they had. It was like in London, and I was in a car with 3 girls, and they were both like all 3 of them quite overweight, and they were saying to me like, Tom, would you ever go out with an overweight girl? And I said, nothing really against it. I'm just not attracted to it. And mate, I was like, really, they were going after me for the rest of the day, and I'm like, it's not that much. You could say like, I would say I'm not attracted to gingers, but I really am. But you know, like there's certain physical attributes that you can just not be attracted to, and you can't force that.
You know, funny enough about gingers. So I don't know.
Gingers, it was a thing of mine.
I don't know if I've mentioned this on here before. I've mentioned to a lot of people. So a lot of people on like watching this will be like, "Oh, you fucking told us this before." You know why there's a lot of like anti-ginger kind of rhetoric and hate that's kind of passed down, quite universal, right? Not that everyone should hate gingers. Yeah. You know where it stems from? It stems from religion, doesn't it? Because Lilith, the first Adam's first wife that became the first demon, was ginger.
Yeah, she was.
And all of her demon babies, ginger. And Judas, who betrayed Jesus, was ginger, or red of hair.
Yeah.
And Mary Magdalene, who married Jesus, but didn't.
She was betrayed as ginger.
Yeah, so she was a whore in the Bible. Yeah. So they basically ostracized ginger people in the Bible. Well, red.
I wonder though if it's the case of the artistic influence of the Catholic Church potentially. Maybe they hated gingers because they didn't document gingers' hairs in the Bible, did they? Because I've read it like 4 times.
Yeah, it's true actually. To be fair.
Yeah, it doesn't say the colour of their hair.
You've only read the Bible 4 times.
Yeah,
that surprises me.
Yeah, cover to cover, mate. Deuteronomy's hard work, I'll tell you that.
So it'd be worth saying then, to be fair, that if you are a ginger and you're wondering why your people get so much stick.
That's a beautiful spider, that, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there he is. He's over here now. Josh is asking to see him.
Show the spider.
I'm going to try and show you guys the
spider. You ready,
Josh?
Josh?
So he's kind of over here. I don't know if you can see him.
Next guest.
Can you see him? He's like just living there. So he's moved away from us now, at least. So anyone that's watching this on the YouTube later, you don't get to see the spider, I'm afraid. Only the people that tuned in live get to see the spider.
Our engaged audience.
Yeah, exactly.
All 5 of them.
Yeah. To be fair, we've had a lot of people jump in and jump out by the looks of it.
Oh, we bored them all.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is a good
consistent
turnout.
Live.
Turnout.
And
think about the context that you sat at home and you're just watching us talk.
He's thick. Ella says. He is thick. And also, so moral dilemma question.
Oh yeah, so let's go.
So I based on the last one we put out there, which was quite disturbing. I decided to come up with the moral dilemma question for you. So I'll pose this one to both of you, then I'll give my thoughts. If you could access a time machine and go back in time and murder Hitler while he was a child, thus saving thousands upon thousands of lives, would you do it?
It's a very topical question.
I know.
Yes.
Just straight out, I guess. What would your reasoning be behind it? Bear in mind, this is Hitler as a child.
Holocaust is the reason.
Yeah, this is fair. What if you had to murder him, like with a bludgeoning weapon, rather than like a gun or something? So it had to be like a visceral kind of murder of this young child.
Mate, 5 ducks was enough.
I was traumatised at a duck. But no, I think surely you've just got to, yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
You could justify it. Oh, God.
I wouldn't do it. Shall I tell you why? Because we always assume sometimes it's a bit fallacious that if we change the past, that the future would always be better.
Yeah.
And so, like, I get the premise, like, who doesn't want millions of people to die? But...
Who doesn't want millions of people
so
to
die? Sorry. Let's clarify. Susie's clarification was absolutely accurate, just for the statement before this will get segmented.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think you just don't know, do you? Like, it's like that butterfly effect thing, though, isn't it? And like, it sounds really cheesy, but there's certain experiences in my life. There you go. Hello, friend. It's fucking huge.
He's just done like the rounds. He's just done a lap.
His body is thick.
He's a proper thick. Where are you going? Like that's a significant amount of distance for a spider to travel.
Yeah, that's a big spider. I don't know. I don't think you don't know the outcome, and then. What if, I don't know, so I would say I can't really change the past. I've got a weird thing about it where some of my experiences growing up, and I'm sure you've all got them, you've had some really bad or negative experiences. And I'm like, well, actually, you just can't change them because I'm not saying millions of deaths is justified, but the reality we live in is what we know and comfortable with, and we wouldn't know that if it got changed. But I'm also really sad, and I'm not justifying millions of people.
Yeah, after that, fully hammer that point home.
Yeah, if I could have a time machine, I don't think I'd want a time machine really if it was offered to me.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't want to change. I like if I could go back in time, I wouldn't change anything.
Stop you there though. Time machine. You get to choose between a time machine or a Bernard's watch. Do you remember Bernard's watch?
What's a Bernard's watch?
Bernard's watch was a TV show about like a boy who had a watch and he could just stop time.
Ooh.
And Bernard's watch would be fucking sick. Can you imagine, like, at school? I used to believe that because I never prepped for my exams because I didn't really get school when I was younger. But if you could just pause it and walk and get a book from the library, then unpause it and answer the question.
But it stops it for everyone other than you.
No, yeah, everyone else freezes.
So I can't do jiu-jitsu while I've stopped.
No, but like we're in the future.
I'm not interested in it.
No, but you can unfreeze it. So you could do a jiu-jitsu match and you're like, oh, Susie's really fast because you've fucked with time and just paused it intermittently and taken someone's back without them noticing.
Okay, now I'm seeing the benefits of it.
Yeah. I've thought about this way too much, Susie. Bernard's watch over a time machine, like being able to manipulate time in a short frame, like Prince of Persia level, where you can just backstep a little bit. I'd be interested in that.
So I think, like, with the Holocaust question, on the surface of it makes perfect sense to go back and murder Hitler, because the guilt from murdering one child would be significant, but for the greater good. Although, it then takes in, I was like, what? So I've obviously pondered this one. Like, was there a point where he could have been steered towards a different path? Like, or was his fate determinate? Like, was he always going to be just like this fucking Nazi that...
We're going to get into determinism now.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like, was it always in his nature? Was he like, was he the sum of what happened to him and that he could be redirected as a child?
It's a bit of both, isn't it? Nature and nurture.
Yeah.
But the question is, would you kill him or not?
That's true.
It's not like, would you try and change him?
Yeah, like, I think for me, the weight of playing God by not killing him would be a lot to bear. So, like, on the surface of it, if you knew for a fact that killing him would just save all those people and the world would be a better place, then 100%. But then, what if you were to kill him and 5 of the people that he killed turned out to be mass murderers themselves? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think I could take the weight of like the what ifs that I directly caused as opposed to what would happen anyway. You know what I mean? Like, because what happened in that instance, like with the Holocaust, is obviously no responsibility of mine because it happened significantly before I was born. Whereas if I went and killed him, whatever happens after that point will be a direct result of my actions, and I would then be responsible for it. If something terrible happened after that, it would be directly on me.
I see that. So it's about you then, is it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like, I'm just thinking of my own like personal.
Does anyone know that you've had this choice, or is it just weighing on your own?
No, it would be you, because it would be only you. So basically, you would be the one to decide it. And
okay, well, I would be less likely to kill him then.
Okay, I can see what you mean. So it's like
the repercussions of having to like explain to
why you didn't kill him.
Yeah, it's like just actually.
Do you want to throw Susie the question about the 5 million? Was it the £5 million? And I'd be interested where she goes with this one.
So, if someone said, right, they're going to hand you a suitcase, £5 million, tax free, just boom, here, £5 million. All you had to do was to press this button over here. But if you press that button over there, somewhere randomly on the planet, a bomb explodes and kills a bus full of kids.
No, it was different. You changed it because they were running down
a train
track.
Yeah, it's basically if you press the button, it would save the lives of these kids that were going to basically just plummet off the end of a pier, or for example, on the train and going to die. So you can either take the 5 million and just walk away and let them plummet to their death, or you could not take the 5 million, press the button, and those 100 kids that you'll never meet somewhere on the planet will survive and live full. You suspect full and fruitful lives.
I would definitely save the children. 5
million's a lot of money, though. Like,
I think it depends on what your value is on money. It's similar to the duck scenario. Like, if I didn't want to kill a duck for 50 grand, do I really want to kill 100 kids for 5 million? I don't know.
I'd argue that I would value the duck lives higher. I think I'd feel more guilt about killing a duck than a random
The
child.
thing for me is when you're saying with the children, I'm thinking about it, but with the ducks, I'm like, it's like whack-a-mole. Let's just go. How many can I like bonus through to get 50k for each one?
I don't think I could enjoy spending that money.
No.
I just think,
But surely the onus should be on the man who gives you the suitcases to put the kids in that situation. So you should stop it, and then Susie just take him down, strangle him, and take the money for the discomfort.
If he's not good at jiu-jitsu, I can have the
Yeah, both. That's actually a good lesson for why you should go to jiu-jitsu, to be fair. Because if you ever got put in that situation, like
you've got options.
You could save 100 lives and get 5 million. Whereas if you didn't know jiu-jitsu, you could only do one of those things. So,
there we go.
Yeah, do jiu-jitsu, folks. And we've actually had. Love that anyone who's joined this right now is expecting to be talking about jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I think they might have suspected, being our podcast, and me and Tom tend to go off on random tangents, that there would be some unusual subjects broached.
Usually, yeah. It's an all-encompassing podcast.
Yeah, I think we like to, what's the word? We like to tick all boxes,
Yeah.
Bit of variety.
Wide audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, so randomly, I've been inspired. He's over here now. Does anyone do anything? You're gonna climb my trainer.
Oh, don't. I don't want it.
Come away.
Is that the end of all the questions, by the way?
It was. That was the last of the questions. Do you guys ever do something or watch something that irritates you? That irritates you? Tom knows that I do this.
Because you send me pages from certain people on social media just to fucking wind me up.
I found a new one.
Oh,
Yeah.
The other one got cancelled, didn't they?
They
They
did. Yeah, you have to be very careful with what terminology you use. But do you do that, Susie, or is it just like a moron thing?
Oh, Susie gets triggered. I know Susie gets triggered for sure.
Do you deliberately go to things that trigger you, just so you can feel that rage?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you can share some of those triggers?
No, not in a public space.
I am glad that it's not just me, though, at least. But there's an Instagram account that I found that triggers me now. I think it's called Woke Vision or something along those lines.
Right.
And it's all like mentalists just talking mentalist stuff. Like when you watch it, it's just like, I want to just ram my head through the desk, but then I keep going back there and looking at it. I don't want to give them a follow because I feel like I'll be growing their account.
Oh, I've changed my opinion on something. You know, we had a strong opinion on violent communication.
Oh yeah,
how communication isn't violent. Actually, I saw a video recently, and I'm like, that might be violent communication.
Ooh.
So, do you remember the guy who did Change My Mind?
Yeah.
Did you see the video of him with his wife?
No.
That's violent communication.
Oh,
so,
really?
yeah, so they've got divorced recently, and there's a video of his pregnant wife saying she wants to take the car. So it's a porch footage. He's literally sat on his sofa like this, smoking his cigar, and she's pregnant and goes, I want to go to the shop just to get some things up, and she doesn't want to handle dog medicine because she's worried about the effect it might have on a baby. And he's like, no, you can't have the fucking car. Like, it's important that I get to the gym. You understand this. He's like, call an Uber and all this stuff. He's like, but it's your wifely duty, and saying all this stuff to her.
Yeah.
And like, you can see at the end of it, is super aggressive in the way he comes across. She's like, I love you, I respect you. And he's like, you don't fucking love me. And it's very aggressive. Yeah. Like, you'd see in that situation, if it's two men, it would escalate into violence. But in that situation, because she's pregnant, probably feels a little bit more vulnerable. She's like trying to get away from the situation entirely. So my opinion on violent, I'd say that is violent communication. But if that video I sent you ages ago, I was like, that's not violent communication. If your wife tells you need to take the bin out, it's not violent communication.
Yeah, well, funny enough, violent communication, on that page that I go to piss myself off now, there was someone speaking to, I don't know what activist this person was, but they said, he had asked them, what would happen if I misgendered you? and they said, "Oh, if you misgendered me, it would be an act of violence." I was like, "No, it would just be fucking rude to misgender someone. It's not violent. Like, be violent if you misgender them and then punch them in the face."
Because like violence is a real thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people when they use terms like that haven't experienced real violence.
Yeah.
And I get that it hurts your feelings, and my biggest thing is I don't really want to upset people. And the worst thing is I'm probably going to upset you, or you don't feel like I'm understanding where you're coming from, but I'm not being violent towards you.
No. Like, I think there's a difference between being unpleasant and rude and just like an asshole.
Yeah.
And being violent.
Yeah.
Like.
Are we talking about like physical violence?
Yeah, so people resort to like communication as violent communication.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I said to you, Susie, the example I sent to you is about a guy. Someone said, "You've not taken the bins out today," and it's this really weird video. He's like, "What you would say to your wife in this situation?" I thought it was satire, but it's true. He's like, "The way you're explaining this to me makes me feel like my position as the man in the home isn't being understood."
Okay.
And that's a form of violent communication. And I'm like, that's what we're talking about.
Oh my god.
Even remember
If I did that to Gillian, like, I think I would experience true violence.
Yeah. It's like, why are you speaking to me
I
like
was
that?
about to say that's a really good way to just.
Can you imagine, like, you're pissed off and they go, "Actually, the way you're speaking to me is violent communication," and you don't understand why that it's not. That's a person who doesn't know life.
Yeah. Ugh. I was just like, I feel like that wave of rage, like inside me.
I can see it, great. You change colour a little bit,
I know,
even just
I just
talking about it.
Violent communication. It's just like if someone was to accidentally call you anything other than a female, Susie, would you consider that them being violent to you, or just rude?
What are they calling me? A male?
Yeah, they're like, "Yo, what's up, man?" And you're like,
Oh right.
I'm clearly like not a man. They're like, "Yeah, whatever, man." Like, would you say that they're being like?
No, I just think they're a bit of a wank.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah.
just like you've been a wanker. It's fine. Stop being a wanker.
Yeah.
It's not violent.
Rude, obnoxious, like offensive, but not violent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like a sensible kind of barrier that most people would understand.
But I think it's just putting extra weight on being offended, isn't it? Like, it makes the not even in the context of that. If someone upsets you and you say like, "It's being violent towards me," you're saying this is worse than
It's
you upset
immersive
me.
language to
Yeah.
use, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like it's okay to be offended. Like, you're not going to go through life without being offended. And if you think that you are entitled to a life without ever being offended, you place a very, very high value on your own feelings above society. Because in society, there are things you're not going to like. Like, that's just the nature of society. You can't expect society to bend to your whims. So if something in society offends you, that's subjective. It's like your offence that you're there's not society's job not to offend you. It's your job to manage your reaction and your relationship with society so that you don't just expect them to treat you like a king or queen.
Well, a prime example for me was like when I was in Mormonism, the big thing that people would always resort to if they felt antagonism towards the church or its principles would assume like a persecution complex. And you'd hear phrases like, "Well, the reason everyone says these things about the church is because they know it's true," and then they don't like, and they know deep down it's true, and this is why they're saying this stuff to upset you. And I'm like, no, they're probably just being a little bit insensitive.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's okay. They're entitled to that opinion, just like my opinion.
It'd be like certain jiu-jitsu cults. And like people are slagging us off on all the forums.
Because we're really good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
It's got nothing to do with the way we behave or act.
We have a special community that is in no way secular or isolating amongst the wider jiu-jitsu community. Yeah, no names or anything. But speaking of that, have you seen some merch that Lloyd and Tomo are potentially getting made, which looks freaking fantastic?
I like jiu-jitsu merch. I buy all of the things.
Yeah, that's basically
the only thing I think I spend money on.
Yeah, too.
Jiu-jitsu clothes occasionally, and then that's about it. And shopping and food. That's about all I need.
Yeah, I get the piss taken out of me for the amount of food that I buy that's like expensive food, or like you eat like you're like a freaking baller. You know, it's like, yeah, but eating gives me joy, so I'm gonna spend money.
And actually sustains life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is like better than alcohol, which does neither of those things. So
yeah,
I'll take that.
Yeah.
So we haven't had any extra come in there. I thought I just reread Alice's thing. So, anyone else in there, if you do want to throw an extra question to Susie, you've got an extra few minutes before we wrap up and let her go home, because obviously it's getting late and I appreciate her coming down and having this chat with us. Susie, is there anything coming up? Any news or any kind of, other than the Euros obviously, or any kind of like advice that you want to give to people that are watching this, maybe through jiu-jitsu or training in general, or any kind of like parting words you want to impart onto our audience?
I've got a very big match coming up.
Ooh, exciting.
But I can't actually say what it is yet because we're live, but it should be getting announced next week. It's probably going to be the biggest match I'll ever have, I would say. So
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Well, we'll see. We don't know what the future holds, but it is incredibly exciting, and I'm like pinching myself, and I'm just bouncing off the walls when I got the call this week. So yeah, that is just some exciting. I'm sorry, I can't tell you what it is, but hopefully you'll find out soon.
Are you able to disclose when said match could be if people were trying to say budget for tickets to come to you, when they would need to put money aside for?
It might be on the 18th of November.
Might be.
18th of November, folks. So if you are a fan of Susie's and you want to support her, make sure you have some money around that date, potentially, to buy tickets and potentially food and travel and whatnot.
If it needs to be travelled to.
If it needs to be travelled to, assuming that it is outside of the Yorkshire area, which I suspect most jiu-jitsu matches are, in fairness. How are we doing, Lauren? It's more of our anyway. You should miss the whole show, Lauren. But this, like I say, for anyone that has missed this live, don't worry. This is not going to stay up on my Instagram, but I am going to put it up on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify and on YouTube. It will take me like a day to do that, so you guys can have to wait if you've missed it. Tom, obviously you've mentioned IMA moving. Is there anything else that you want to impart on people?
I just want to say it's going to be really good. So we're starting to announce some things now. So we'll open up our new space on the 1st of November. We're going to have something every day. So if you like grappling, you can come down any day of the week. I'll have something on for you. And we're going to start running some kids classes. We'll go into detail with that, but we're going to have a good offering for kids classes too. It's a better place. We've got coffee machines. We've got our own dedicated space, and we'll have a few good things getting set up in the next few weeks, and we'll keep you updated with that.
Laura said you're past the point of being fashionably late. So like fashionably late would be like 10 minutes or so into the party. People want half an hour.
Yeah.
But you've basically come in when like people are outside the kebab shop at 3 a.m. Like that's when you've made your grand entrance to the party. So Lauren is one of our new BJJ for Beginners course members. So they're now currently in week 3, I want to say. So that course, obviously, for those of you that have seen all the beginners that we've had swamping in here, 8-week course, just trying to take people through literally the basics. So if you've never done any grappling before, by the end of the 8 weeks, we'll have covered enough to make you like feel confident enough to come to regular classes, basically. Because I think the biggest thing for people starting jiu-jitsu, which we all had to do, because it wasn't this type of thing when we started really, is I have to join a class where people already kind of know what they're doing, and you feel like you're going to be behind everyone else. So you're kind of joining in the middle. It's like picking up a book and reading it from like halfway through,
I love you throwing about 17 metaphors that are there just to be like, you're so late.
Yeah. So like, I find like starting that course from the beginning is going to help people. And we are going to launch that again in January, I think, when this one finishes. But for those of you that are currently on this, watching this, so like Lauren and Casey, obviously now kind of filtering some of you guys over into the general class, which is the ultimate aim to get you grappling with all the rest of us. So for anyone else watching this, if you've noticed the grappling community looking very big and boisterous lately in our gym, which is a small gym, it's because of that course, and we're looking to get more people involved in January. Says, loving the course. See, there's a little plug for it there as well. Turns out my laser eyes have actually degraded somewhat. Loving the course so far. Mega glad that I have hopped on. Also, It's good to have you in. And yeah, like I say, looking forward to getting that going. So for those of you watching this live, obviously we're going to wrap this up now. Thanks for tuning in. And like I say, if you have done a Lauren and like just shown up after the Close the gate after the horse has bolted.
Give her a break.
I don't know how many more metaphors I can think of for being late now, you know.
Thanks for being on, Lauren, though. It's nice to have you.
Yeah, we appreciate the support. You know, would have been good like half an hour ago. But that's right. I'll stop giving you stick now. But yeah, we will have this up on Apple and Spotify. So please go like, subscribe over there, because if you like and subscribe over there, we're more likely to get people that will either send us free shit to advertise or pay us money to advertise their stuff. Either one's good. So if you're watching this and you have stuff that you want to advertise, send it to me and Tom for free or give us money, and we'll gladly shit it for you. And yeah, thanks for jumping on, guys. We'll catch you all at the next one. I'll just poke my head in the frame here because I've been out of it for the most.
See you later.
Bye.
See you later, guys. Oh, there we go.
I've got a funny story to tell you, Gosh.